Now, let me ask you a question. Have you ever felt like you're doing everything right, but yet all of a sudden everything fell apart? As I am setting sail to Mexico right now and looking how vast these waters are, I am reminded of a Bible story in the book of Mark, chapter 4, that talks about how Jesus told his disciples to get on the boat and cross the lake. And so they did. And all of a sudden came a huge storm. And it was so bad, the waves were so high that the boats began to fill with water. Meanwhile, Jesus was in the back of the boat, sound asleep. The disciples were desperate. And they came to Jesus and woke him up and said, "Master, don't you care that we are going down?" At that moment, Jesus stood up, rebuked the wind, and said to the waves, "Silent, be still." And instantly there was a great calm. Now the disciples were terrified, this time not of the storm, but of Jesus. They started asking each other, "Who is this man that even the winds and the waves obey him?" Jesus looked at them and asked, "Why are you so afraid? Do you still have no faith?" The disciples panicked because the storm felt overwhelming, and Jesus seemed to be silent. And honestly, that's where many of us find ourselves. We may not face a physical storm on a lake or in the Atlantic Ocean, but we do face storms of anxiety, loss, uncertainty, and fear. And in those moments, we might ask the same question, "Jesus, don't you care?" This passage reminds us that we have a choice. We can either panic and assume God is absent, or resist fear and trust that Jesus is in the boat with us. Now, I have recently faced a storm myself when I found myself having to find a new job, and I was in the middle of moving to a new place. And instead of being anxious, I started praying. Every time I thought about it, I called on the name of Jesus. And I said, "Jesus, I know that you are in this boat with me. And I know I'm not going to sink because you are in this boat with me. Things are going to come through. Things are going to come through." And I persevered through that storm, and look at where I am now. This is a work trip that I'm on. This is a business cruise that I'm on. Look where I am. Look where I am. And all of this to say that it always pays off when we trust Jesus. It does. God always does abundantly and beyond what we ask or imagine. So, on this note, remember this: the one who commands the winds and the waves, Jesus, is as close as the mention of his name, Jesus. Call upon him, and I assure you, not only because I heard other people say or because I read in the Bible, but also because I've lived in myself. The winds and the waves of whatever you're facing right now will be silent, will be still, because Jesus is God and he loves you. Remember that.